And so I am coming to you from the North Beach Tavern in Long Beach, Washington, where 12:01 tonight, if I move this way, people can actually sit at this bar and have one of their signature Huckleberry lemonade drinks or one of the great local beers from Seaview Brewery right here, and be able to return life to normal. And so we are really excited to be here today, finally get to this time. It feels like a celebratory time and a chance to move forward together as a state. Oh, Nikki, were you trying to say something before I keep going? The resiliency of our industry has been inspiring. We all know how many of our favorite places have gone out of business and faced tremendous challenges. In the numbers for 2020 just came out from DOR last week. For full service in the second three quarters, full service restaurants in the second three quarters of the year, restaurants were down 41%. For drinking places like this tavern that we're in right now, one of our favorite watering holes, they're down 57.5%. And lodging places across Washington were down 61.3%. We know those numbers are even greater in the downtown Seattle area, where our lodging operators were down right around 77%. Just a tremendous impact on the state of the industry. And yet we made it. Here we are. We want to thank everyone in Washington who did everything they could to help us move forward, from the relief efforts of many of the local cities, states, state agencies, and otherwise, to everyone who ordered one extra to-go meal for the year, one more thing, tried alcohol to go and try to get their favorite margarita delivered, not delivered, but picked up to take home. And because of all those reasons, here we are, and places like this are open and ready to move forward. So thank you to everyone in Washington. We could not have done it without you. Thanks for everyone here on the call that got the word out about the need for small businesses to be supported. We're very excited to move forward. The consumer confidence should be high. We are very proud that when we were allowed to be opened, we supported some of the strictest regulations in the state, and those resulted in very, very few single-digit percentage points in contact tracing anything coming from our industry. And so we're proud that as we move forward, all this work we did, and already on top of one of the country's toughest food codes, moving forward, confidence can be high, and we can have our favorite hamburgers and Huckleberry lemonades and our favorite places with high confidence, and we can't wait to see you. We would ask for grace moving forward, and I hate to ask any more of the public. Again, I feel like that friend who keeps asking for a ride to the airport, but here we are. We do need a little more grace. We are trying to find our workforce. We lost almost our entire workforce over the course of the year. We're still short 80,000 workers. So if anyone has a friend that wants an extra job or a little extra money or is ready to return to the workforce, people are hiring. In the meantime, please show grace to the workers who are there. They're either learning a new job or they're working for two, trying to welcome you back to Washington and move us forward. So we're excited to have move forward, but just be a little more patient with us so we can move forward. My last thought is we're excited for 12:01 tonight to welcome back hospitality to the state of Washington in its full form. If you haven't planned your summer vacation, places from Walla Walla to Long Beach to downtown Seattle will be excited to have people coming back and discovering Washington and having restaurants and great places to eat at. Plan your date night, plan a night out at the theater, and let's get our state back to normal. So Nikki, with that, I will take any questions that anyone might want to have.
If you have a question, just again, please indicate it in the chat box and I'll call on you in order. So first we have Dave Gallagher. Go ahead.
Sorry, just needed to unmute there, Anthony.
That's okay. 16 months and I'm still doing that too, Dave, so I understand.
The question I have for you is what are you expecting going forward as an industry in terms of demand? Do you think it's going to be like a big rush of people coming back now that it's full capacity, or will people kind of slowly get used to the idea of dining indoors again and make it more of a build up kind of return to the industry?
Dave, I'm gonna break your questions into three because I don't think hospitality is gonna move at the same time. I think our restaurants are going to see a boom. And I think their biggest challenge is finding enough workers to provide that great food and great hospitality to you. But I think from a customer demand, people are really excited to be back. I was walking up and down the streets of Long Beach yesterday, and the crowds were out. They're excited for that today is coming, and also the chance to escape the heat on the coast. And so I think demand is going to be high. I think for our entertainment folks, it's going to be a little bit in the middle of getting used to being in crowded places together indoors, but it's coming back, and people are so excited to be back, particularly with the high rates of vaccination in Washington. I think lodging is going to tell the hardest story, and they're probably going to be the customer demand side to leg. I think helping get out to see your favorite places in Washington this year will be huge, because international travel and state-to-state travel is probably going to lag a couple of years, and our tourism efforts will be really important to get our lodging locations back to normal. Did that answer your question, Dave?
Yep, I'm good, thanks.
You bet.
Next, we have a question from Keith Eldridge.
Hi, Keith.
Hi there. So just confirming, you said 12:01, so it starts immediately?
We're going tonight. We confirmed that with the governor's office this morning. And for locations who can find the people to welcome us back tonight, they'll be able to come back and sit at a bar and say hello to their favorite bartender and feel a little bit like 2019.
So just logistically, do you have to shut down at 10 and then reopen at midnight?
I think there'll be some adjustments that people make tonight. And honestly, I would check with your favorite watering hole and how they're going to do it. We are still short workers. And so some places aren't going to be able to find the people to hang around. So there will be a little bit of logistics shift tonight, but I would check with your favorite watering hole on how they're going to do it.
Yeah, the main question I had then, with the mask mandate, King County is relinquishing it today. It's going to be up to each establishment, but the CDC guidelines still say if you're not vaccinated, you need to wear a mask. So what's your guidance for the restaurants and businesses and hotels?
You know, our industry does what our customers want it to do. Sometimes a restaurant owner's favorite meal is not the one that the customers like the most. And so that's the one the customers want, is the one we promote and the one we get excited about. And I think it's going to be community by community. I know that in the Northern Peninsula, the comfortability without masks is not as high as going without masks in Eastern Washington. So I think each place is going to talk to its customers, gather its own level of what's comfortable and what makes the guest feel most at home, and do the policy that makes sense for them.
How quickly can you come back?
Can you ask your question a different way, Keith? I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
Just with staffing and supplies and getting people comfortable with coming back in, how soon can the hospitality industry back to full strength?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am very worried. I think if I talk about headwinds, there's two major headwinds. And today's the celebratory day. And in 2 weeks, I want to have a press conference with some more of the data and learning what we're learning at that point. But for the moment, we're going to have some headwinds on employment. It's going to prevent a lot of places from opening full hours. And all those people are not just behind unemployment. There's a lot of varieties for why the workforce shortage. So I think we're going to have to get through summer and into September before we really have a sense of how long we're going to be in this and the employment factor to come back.
Got it. Thank you. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I think we'll have a statewide celebration.
Well, I will be toasting in your honor. That sounds great.
Next, we have a question from Caitlin Reardon.
Hi, Anthony. Caitlin Reardon from Crunchy News. Hi, nice to talk to you again. So with 80,000 being short 80,000 workers, what's being done to incentivize employment at restaurants? And
you know, every operator is trying something different. We're seeing everything from higher wages. We've had more inquiries to healthcare than we've ever had about where can I get healthcare access, because a lot of people are looking for benefits. Other people are looking for bonuses. But honestly, some people just wanted to know, hey, this really is safe and we can move forward. So it'd be really interesting to see the impact of today and tomorrow and the comfort and if it still stands in a week and what that attracts back to our workforce. So every place is slightly different. Every place has different abilities to move. Some people can afford to do the higher bonuses. Some will be challenged to do so. So I think it's going to be a location by location issue. And we're going to be in this for a while. Our state's unemployment is 5.3%. So it's a very, very competitive market right now, Caitlin.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anthony, you can ask your question to Anthony.
That's a great name.
I think so too. So I wanted to ask about masks again. You'd mentioned a bit about for customers. I'm curious if you've heard anything about how restaurants in particular are approaching this when it comes to their own employees. Like if you've heard if it's going to tend to be a policy of no masks now for employees or selectively by employee choice, just kind of what that's going to look like.
Well, the employee rule by the governor is still in place, and we're anticipated that being in place for the rest of the month. And so that rule will continue to take effect, which is if your employee has been vaccinated and can show proof of vaccination, they're allowed to go without a mask. And if not, they're required to wear a mask. And we're anticipating in our conversations with the governor's office for that to go at least a month and then see what happens right with that. So I would say the policy that existed yesterday for an operator, I really see no reason to change that tomorrow night.
Christine Sherrod with the News Tribune.
Hello. Hi, Anthony. How are you?
Good.
It's an exciting day. Can't believe we're here. I wanted to ask kind of maybe a little bit of a feel-good question of the day before we get to tomorrow. What are some of the positives and some of the things that you see that happened in the past year that will stick around in the industry?
Great
and
question.
How that will play kind of into the future.
You know, and we're going to talk about this more in a couple of weeks, Christine, but let me give you a little bit of a teaser. We saw a big improvement from second quarter impact to fourth quarter impact in the state of the industry. And that was because we allowed all these changes to try to help operators survive. The cap on third-party delivery fees, the ability to get this great Huckleberry lemonade delivered, or no, excuse me, to go and be able to extend that. Operators learned how to use technology in ways they haven't before. The public's patience in learning how to deal with this and actually really enjoying a to-go product, and operators changing their menu to travel better over usually that 20-minute window from coming out of the kitchen to getting to your front door, and what kind of food travels and still tastes great when it gets there. So a lot of those things I see continuing. I think things like QR codes, alcohol to go, a better relationship with third-party delivery companies. I think all those things, and customers and restaurants being more open to third-party delivery, will be things that will help us carry through this workforce shortage and some of the other things that are in front of us, but also hopefully make the industry stronger. So I think also a lot of operators, just honestly, nothing makes you as sharp as going through a crisis and learning all the stuff that maybe in great times you let go, you didn't worry about, that in tough times you really tightened up and you made yourself a better operation. I think a lot of them will carry those lessons forward for the next few years as we weather this. So I'm excited about that. I do still think the demand for hospitality is high. Not to be overly my dorky self, but if you look at the generational shifts and the generations coming in, they really value experience and they really value their time of getting meals from others. And they make a calculation of the time to make a meal and the time to clean up after a meal, along with the cost of a meal, where prior generations didn't. And so I think generationally, hospitality in the long run is going to be in really good shape. We have to help people through now. There will be a bit of a race against debt that we will be facing. So your average full service operation is going to have about $120,000 to $160,000 in debt that they're going to need patience to overcome. And when that is overcome, I do think the long-term business is in good shape. Christine, I love the positive question. Thank you. Today is a celebratory day, so thank you for asking that. Did I answer your question?
You did. Great. Thank you so much.
Great to hear from you.
Kate Walters' turn.
Hi, thanks so much for taking the question. Just wondering what guidance, if any, you're getting from L&I about holdover requirements as the state reopens? Because reading the state's webpage, they're sort of saying like, yeah, you can go back to January 2020, but L&I will have their own guidance, and that's kind of what you need to pay attention to with workplace safety. So what are you seeing there in terms of things that might stay that are COVID related?
Well, let's all work together. But what I'm hearing is that everything except for masks is lifted as of midnight tonight. So you'll be able to see these things called salt shakers. They're white and things come out of the top of them. Those can be back on the tables. You can see ketchup bottles back on the tables. You'll be able to see menus again. And again, menus will be a little bit different. I think QR codes and some of these simplified menus are going to continue as a business improvement. But from what I understand, the lone hangover after hangover, I'm already in a tavern. I'm already talking about hangovers. The lone thing that will move forward will be the mask mandates.
Dave Gallagher has one more question.
Yeah, thanks
Dave.
again. Wanted to check in with you to see what kind of trend or expectations you have in terms of restaurants opening and closing now that we're at this point. Are you kind of expecting kind of a shot of, fresh blood of new restaurants coming in now that we're at this point where you can actually run a restaurant, a little bit better now?
So here's what I think. And again, in 2 weeks, I was hoping to have our final closure data ready today, but we're still trying to make sure it's accurate, move forward. So we're buying ourselves 2 weeks, and we'll release the data that we know and we can report with confidence. But from what I can tell, obviously we have fewer restaurants today than we had in 2019, but I think demand is going to be at or slightly higher than 2019 levels. So eventually over time, that's going to catch up. Now, some people with a high level of debt will use this chance to have a strong industry, to have someone buy their property and get out of debt. Other people will just use this to say, talk to the banks about, look where this is headed, and please keep believing in me. And we've seen that true for a lot of local landlords across the state. And again, if we're saying thank you, those local landlords who said, we recognize this is not your fault. We recognize you are a great part of our community, and they've been patient. And then hopefully we can be open with each other about how we come through this moving forward. So I'm anticipating positive things moving forward, and over a 2 to 3 year window. As far as pure number of locations, I'm anticipating a similar number. But for the people who it's their business today and their debt or their loss today, it's going to be a bit to get out of it. Did I answer your question, Dave, or can you redirect me if I missed it?
No, that's good. I was just wondering if you were thinking, wow, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that might jump in now that we have a bit more clarity on where we're going.
I'm going to be really curious how the numbers come out, but I'm anticipating that's actually going to show a little bit in this last quarter as people simply got in a position where they had to sell for maybe less than full value because of the debt, and people were able to have a moment of opportunity. And so I think you're going to see some openings in this past quarter due to the chance to get a really good deal because of the struggles that the existing restaurant allocation had. But over time, I do see this as continue to be a great chance for opportunity. And for those looking to get into the industry, there will be an opportunity.
Great, thanks.
Got a question from Deborah Horn with Cairo 7.
Hi
Deborah.
there. How are you, Anthony? I'm a little late to your party, so I may ask.
Okay, welcome. Would you like a Huckleberry lemonade from North Beach Tavern?
I love that. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask one question though. Do you, and now I figured out how I can show my face since I do like to see what I look like. So, it is an exciting day. And I think even we journalists who have to figure out, what the other side is, I think that the thing is that people in general do feel good about this. But I also wonder about like downtown Seattle. I don't know whether you can talk about that or any kind of area that is really dependent, not just on whether people wear masks, but whether people are working. And so there is some move toward making people come back down to downtown Seattle, and just downtowns in general have really suffered during this. this. How do you foresee this playing out? Obviously, I'm not asking you to look into your crystal ball, but you did say 2 to 3 years you think things will be better. How do you see the restaurant industry responding and being able to come back from this?
In downtown Seattle specifically.
Yes, or downtowns in general. And if you feel that that's not your area, just say that and I'm fine.
No, I do. We're gonna, in our more of a data where we go from here press conference in 2 weeks. We're gonna have Tom Norwalk from Visit Seattle join us. And then hopefully some folks from the Walla Walla Wine Side and some other types talk about where we're headed in the long term. In the moment, what I would say is Seattle was definitely the hardest hit. The DOR numbers came out last week where I was able to look through all the cities and all the counties. Yeah, I'm that big of a nerd. And see where everyone was at. And Seattle was clearly the hardest hit. That's for a variety of reasons. You mentioned a couple of them. A lot of them depend on those 24 stories above them for a great lunch business and hopefully hanging around for a great cocktail or something else or an appetizer before heading home. And that just hasn't been the case. And a lot of those businesses have said September-ish is when we're looking to come back. And so that will probably take some time for those that are dependent on that great workforce in Seattle and where those comes at. And we'll learn more about that over the summer. The convention business is a big piece of this. And Visit Seattle, if you haven't had a chance to look at what they released last week in their numbers, talked a lot about there does appear to be a resiliency in that the number of conventions is going to be coming up, but it's not going to be this summer. It takes a while to book these things and it takes a while to plan on these things. And the convention business is why those tourism dollars were so important to the state. You recruit these things a couple of years out. So when they cancel now, they'd already booked someplace the year after and the year after. And if they don't know you're going to be open or how you're going to be open, they've been unwilling to kind of book to this point. So this date is really important so we can start recruiting those conventions back into that beautiful convention center and our wonderful hotels in Seattle. Additionally, there's just going to be, I lost my train of thought, convention, tourism business. I think the tourism business is, again, really important to Seattle. That, I think, is going to be coming back. We're looking for some great weather this summer. I think there'll be a lot of opportunity this summer to see that, but it's going to be in state. So people who haven't had a chance to spend a night in Seattle, visit some of the incredible restaurants in Seattle, maybe have a chance to, in 2018, 2019, where rates were really high because people from around the world wanted to see it, maybe have a chance to get in this summer and enjoy their own city for a vacation or their major city in the state for a vacation. So I think hopefully those are things that can play out, but because of those buildings that I talked about and because of convention, Seattle will probably be the last one to normal. It's probably a reality.
Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
You bet.
We have just a few minutes left. Are there any other questions? One more from Anthony to Anthony.
This is Anthony, not the voice in my head, Anthony, right?
Hi.
Yeah, okay.
As far as I know. Yeah, just the one other thing I was curious about was, I mean, I've heard some restaurants talk about being apprehensive during prior stages about opening up at whatever level they could, just due to basically the high startup costs of reopening and the risk of backsliding into another phase. I'm curious if you have any sense of kind of where that feeling is at right now, like if there are concerns that somehow, you know, whether it's like the Delta variant or some other reason that we could see a lockdown slam back in and that people are apprehensive to reopen for that reason, or is there a sense that we really have sort of hit the end of the tunnel here?
Yeah, I think the sense is really positive. I think the sense is this has been one of the more tentative governors in how to reopen. And if our governor is ready to move forward, that probably is a really strong side that we can move forward. And so I think from that perspective, the feeling is celebratory. And I can't tell you how big it is for people to be able to come back here and sit at a bar. Some of the best customer reactions and friendships and neighbors and things happen here between usually the owners that often work these bars and otherwise, and the chance to get to talk to their customers again and how have you been, and be friends and be neighbors again. The overall vibe is really celebratory and very positive. And I think that comes with hospitality. It's a tough industry, and you have to be able to believe to be able to have the resiliency to get through it.
Any other final questions?
I just want to thank everyone on the call for getting the word out about the struggles of the industry in the past year. Obviously, it's been a tough year, and I want today to be positive, but I'm very grateful that we let people know the struggles of small business this year and for what you did to get the word out. And for everyone in Washington who again, took the extra to-go item, did the small things to support people. The stories from around the state were incredibly inspiring, and it's great to live in the state that does support small business. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
If anyone needs the recording, we'll have it available to send out. You can just send me an email if you need any reference to the statistics that Anthony shared. Likewise, just send me an email. And thank you all for joining. And I hope we see you at 12:01 out at your
12:01 tonight.
Thank you, Anthony.